Hello and welcome. This is our family's true tales of the supernatural. Today I'm going to talk about a very intriguing set of circumstances that happened in my life. As we start, let me ask you some things. What would you do if you had a dream where you saw something happen and as you woke up, it came true? I mean, you heard people talk about the situation and it was the same thing you saw in your dream. What if it seemed like a supernatural dream? What if you couldn't have possibly known the events in advance, but the events occurred exactly as you foresaw in the dream? Well, on the show today, I'll be telling you a few true stories from my own life. Some are about dreams I had where I saw things that really happened, even though there was no way I could have known about those things. Now, before we talk about those situations, please do me a favor and click the like and subscribe buttons. You might also click the follow button if you're watching on Rumble. Now, when you click the subscribe button on YouTube, you should see a drop-down menu. You should click the word All. That way, you can get notifications when new episodes are released. Yet right now, let me start this episode by giving you an update on some things I've seen. So at this time, I'll give you an update on the paranormal activity in my house and things I've seen recently. I'm still seeing shadow figures out of the corners of my eyes in my house. Yet when I turn to look at them, I don't see anything there. I recently grounded myself with my bare feet on the ground, so the activity has decreased a bit. Yet the activity continues a little bit here and there. I still see dark flashes out of the corners of my eyes that look like debris falling on me. This is still happening as of August of 2025. This happens in my house occasionally, and on rare occasion I see it when I'm driving. Yet this is another one of those things where I'll turn to look and see what's going on. Yet when I turn to see what's happening, I don't see anything. These types of sightings also decreased after I grounded myself. I also had another incident recently where I was driving in my local area and I saw another shadow figure. As I stopped at a stop sign and was about to drive through the intersection, I briefly saw a shadow figure. It looked like the shadow figure was standing near the road and between someone's driveway and mailbox. I focused my eyes on that spot, and as I did, the shadow figure slowly faded out of my sight. Then it faded away over about 2 or 3 seconds. Then they seemed like they were gone and I couldn't see anything there anymore. Yet at this time, let me tell you about another situation from another occasion earlier this year. Early in the year of 2025, my uncle passed away, and an interesting thing happened on the way to the funeral. The funeral was held on Friday, February 7th, 2025. My family and I got ready to go to the funeral, and we got in the car to drive to the funeral home. As we drove out of our driveway and started to drive down the road, I saw an interesting sight. As we drove down the road a few hundred feet over a highway overpass, I saw a shadow figure standing near the edge of the road. It seemed to look very tall. It looked like it was about 10 feet tall overall. My dad was driving and kept a steady pace as if he didn't see the shadow figure at all. The shadow figure seemed to be standing right next to the part of the overpass with a partial concrete wall. That's where the partial concrete wall met the guardrail on the ascending ramp to the overpass. I thought the shadow figure would disappear in 1 or 2 seconds like they usually do, but this one stayed a while longer. This time it stayed till we got to it, and as we got up next to it, I did a double take. As I did a double take and blinked my eyes, it seemed to disappear in an instant. As we passed by that spot, I turned to look back at it, but it seemed to have disappeared. I couldn't see it anymore at all. I almost wondered if it was a spirit that was local to that area, or if it might have been the spirit of my uncle. My uncle gave me a few encouraging words I really appreciated a couple years previous to his passing on. I also said a few kind words to him when we had our walk-through viewing a day or two before the funeral. Due to seeing all the different shadow figures in 2025 and the one in the graveyard that I mentioned in the previous episode, I had to change some things. You see, these days, if I drive past a graveyard or drive near one, I try not to look, or at least not look too long. It gives me eerie feelings, and I don't want to see a lot of apparitions or shadow figures as I pass by. I also don't want to be rude and stare at them. I also don't want to invite any problems, such as provoking any of them to follow me home or cause problems. I also don't want to annoy them in a way that might make them wish to attack me in any way. Sometimes I wonder if things follow me home or if I have excess psychokinetic energy that attracts them. That's why I ground myself sometimes by putting my bare feet on the ground for several seconds. I also want to avoid the graveyards because I don't know if those spirits might want to be left alone. I would think that if there are spirits there, they don't want anyone to be disruptive or annoying. Due to my brother's experience in a graveyard, I try to keep a few things in mind when going near a cemetery. For one thing, I prefer to make sure I refrain from annoying any spirits that might be there. I'd also prefer to refrain from giving the spirits a chance to follow me home and stir up trouble. I also refrain from speaking ill of the dead. It's unfair to say harsh things when someone cannot defend themselves, and I'd refrain from enraging them. I don't want spirits getting angry with me and lashing out against me. I definitely don't want any paranormal attacks against me either. Besides, I think we should be kind to people in life and those who are in some type of an afterlife, especially if their spirits are lingering around. I've also heard a few interesting legends about graveyards that I'd like to share. One is that as you walk away from a grave or graveyard service, you should walk backwards at least a short ways when you first start walking. Some people think that if you turn and walk away forward, you invite spirits to walk with you and possibly follow you home. If you walk backward, it's like you're keeping an eye on the spirits to make sure they behave properly and don't follow you. Another legend is that if you put a little rosemary or salt in your pocket, it keeps spirits from following you home. Some legends can include specific cemeteries and refer to refraining from sitting on some graves at midnight. Some legends can include being in a graveyard at midnight, which seems to invite spirits to interact with you. Some legends can also include whistling while you're in a cemetery. Some legends say it openly invites spirits to interact with you and possibly follow you home. Some other legends say you should hold your breath and drive away from the cemetery as fast as you can. Otherwise, if you inhale, you might inhale the spirits and invite the dead to follow you and come home with you. Right now, let's get started with our first main story. There are different types of supernatural events and paranormal activity that people might see. Some might come in the form of ghostly activity in an old house. Then again, some of these types of events might be a bit different. This is the case that I'm going to tell you about right now. The situation I'd like to tell you about started a few years ago in the year 2022. You see, the events I'm going to talk about involve things I saw in a dream, and I later found out came true. Let me tell you about it and give you the details to show you what happened. You see, I renovate houses for a living, and we had a guy who I'll call Roger, and he did some work for us. He went to find some other work after his work for us was done, but he became unemployed, couldn't pay his bills, and he had family problems. The next thing I knew, my coworker Ed showed me Roger's picture in the news, and the article said he was arrested. It turned out that the police alleged that he was involved in a bank robbery and the robbery of a local store. I figured that we wouldn't see him for a long time, and he would probably get a prison sentence of at least 20 years. A few weeks later, on Saturday the 11th of November, 2023, I had a very vivid dream about the guy. I saw him talking to a lawyer, and they discussed how to get him off of one of the charges. I then saw the lawyer tell him that he was sure he could get rid of that charge. The lawyer then told him that he was going to talk to the judge about it. As I woke up from the dream, I thought that there was no way this dream could turn out to be true. I heard the alleged charges against him, and those carried a mandatory jail sentence of at least 20 years. I didn't think much of the dream at the time, but on the next Monday, I told my coworker Ed about the dream. Both of us didn't think Roger could escape the serious charges that he was facing. The next day, Tuesday, I heard that my dad had worked with Roger's ex-wife to give her some work for income. The two of them talked about the situation. As I heard what my dad mentioned, I realized that my dream had become 100% true. Roger had talked to his lawyer, and the lawyer talked to the judge to get him out of the bank robbery charges. Roger claimed that he drove the car, but didn't know that the other guy was making the robbery. At the time I had the dream, no one knew that Roger was going to get one charge overturned. I had my dream on the 11th, and my dad didn't find out about any of this other information until the next Tuesday. A short time later, I relayed the story from my dad and told my coworker Ed about it. I then asked Ed if this meant that my dream came 100% true. He agreed that it did seem to come true and that there was no way I could have known about the situation. Ed and I looked up the news story on the internet, and it turned out to be true. Roger still faced a few more serious charges, but he seemed to have gotten out of the bigger charge he faced. As of the summer of 2025, Roger is still in prison, but he is due to get out of prison at the end of the year. At least that's what I've heard. This story actually reminds me of a similar situation where I had another dream where I accurately foresaw the future. So this will bring me to the second main story of this episode. A few years ago, a short time after I had my dream that was like a near-death experience, I had an interesting dream. I believe my NDE dream was in August of 2004, so I think this dream was in somewhere around 2005 or 2006. My friend, who I'll call Bruce, had invited me to go out to lunch with him so we could have some casual conversation and some good food. I figured it would be a good time to hang out and relax. I was looking forward to the occasion since my friend Bruce had invited me. Yet Bruce and I were having a difficult time finding the time to talk and hang out because we were both so busy with work. The night right before we planned to meet for lunch, I sent Bruce an email to make sure he could make it. That night I had a very interesting dream. As I was in the dream, I saw my friend Bruce in his home, sitting in front of his computer reading my email. I also noticed that he was eating a bowl of some type of food. I couldn't tell if it was cereal or if it was some type of soup. I then noticed that as Bruce finished reading the email, he quietly mumbled something. I heard him say, "Sorry, Larry, I can't make it today." It seemed like he was insinuating that he had a lot of work and wouldn't have time to go out to lunch and talk. I also thought I saw Bruce click the send button to send the email to me. I suddenly woke up and didn't feel like I could go back to sleep, so I was curious about the dream to see if it came true. I was curious and wanted to see if it was accurate or if my mind was simply running wild with lots of crazy images. So I got up out of bed and went to my PC computer to check my email. It turned out that the email said exactly what I thought it would say, and it was sent at the exact time I thought it had been sent. I noticed that I wasn't disappointed to see that he was unable to make it for lunch, because I already knew it. I later sent him a reply to let him know it was okay if he couldn't make it, because I saw his reply in a dream. I also told him that I dreamed about it right before he sent his email. I later spoke to Bruce and mentioned that I saw him eating something out of a bowl as I saw him in the dream. Bruce was a bit surprised at the accuracy of the dream. He confirmed that as he read my email, he was eating some cereal out of a bowl. It turned out that as I slept and was having this dream, I was, in reality, seeing exactly what Bruce was doing. I saw the exact things he said and was typing in his reply to my email. It seemed that at the time I had my NDE dream, a lot of this paranormal and supernatural stuff started happening. It's the same way with many people who have NDEs or something like them. Many start seeing ghosts, have more dreams or visions of heaven, or have more dreams about talking to deceased friends and family. I've also noticed some scientists and doctors who consider there to be 3 different categories for NDEs. The first is with people who are clinically dead and the heart monitor registers no heartbeat and the EEG registers no brain activity. The second is what they call a near-death-like experience. This is where a person seems to have a dream of going to heaven or gets knocked out and has a vision. The third is what's called a shared death experience or a group death experience. This is where a group of people, like family and friends, gather around an elderly person who is dying. There have been documented cases where everyone in the room saw glowing spirits enter the room, pull the dying person's spirit out of their body, and they walk away together. There are also other documented cases where the people in the room saw the whole room start to glow a bright white tone. The floor, walls, and the ceiling all glowed. They would then see the glowing spirits pull the dying person's spirit out of their body, and they would walk away and fade into the bright light that is surrounding them all. Then the room dims down to the way it regularly looks. It sounds interesting enough for me to look into. I believe I had the second, but since my cholesterol was extremely high at the time, I'm not sure if I died or had a dream. To this day, I'm still unable to say for sure if I died or if it was a dream or a vision. You see, a few years later, a doctor tested my cholesterol levels and told me healthy levels are between 100 and 200. Yet mine was 400. My doctor told me that if I didn't stop eating so many fast food hamburgers, I'd be dead within 2 years. Last year, which was 2024, I had to see a specialist for another health issue, and I told that doctor about my cholesterol. I told the doctor that I took pills for my cholesterol because my regular doctor told me it shouldn't be over 200, but mine was 400. That doctor acted very shocked and surprised. The doctor said, "Wow, I've never seen anybody's cholesterol that high who survived. Well, my cholesterol is now about 150, but the doctor's comment made me think about my NDE. You see, it could be that I didn't survive and I really did die while sleeping in my own bed at home. To this day, I'm still not sure whether I died or if it was a dream or vision. I don't have any clear definitive evidence that I died. My internal organs weren't adversely affected, and I have no proof that my blood necrotized or dried up inside of me. Obviously, I wasn't hooked up to a heart monitor or EEG brain monitor either. So I can't definitively say I died, or I can't really definitively say one way or the other. Yet my experience was similar to many other people who had NDEs. So I consider it valid since it does fit into the main three categories, and it has similar effects that other people have had. So I consider it real, whether it was in category 1, 2, or 3. You can see a description of my NDE in Season 1, Episode 11. Some other things I've noticed about people who had NDEs is that many of them later on report seeing ghosts. Many of them also report having detailed conversations with spirits. Many people who had NDEs also talk about changes in their behavior and their views. I mean, their behavior is a lot more calm and kind-hearted. Many of them also say that they learned that God loves all people and that we should all love one another. Most report either learning about loving kindness either during their NDE or shortly before or after their NDE. Perhaps you can now see why I mentioned a while ago that there's different types of supernatural and paranormal activity. It isn't merely about seeing a full body apparition or shadow figures. There were other dreams I've had throughout the last several years that revealed other things that were also as amazing as my NDE experience. Some of those dreams included things like seeing glowing people come up to me and say things to me. Most of what they said was helpful to me. I've also had dreams where I interacted with people in other countries around the world. I've even had dreams that warned me about a few different incidences that helped me. I've even had other dreams where I met Jesus, and we were talking with each other as we walked along a beach. We talked about the things I learned about love and the things that I had seen in my other dream. As far as other types of supernatural and paranormal activity, I've had dreams of the future that became true as well. I know of other folks that had what they think of as angels who visited them. My mom was also an unofficial witness to the 1952 Washington, D.C. UFO incident. So, I've seen several different types of supernatural and paranormal activity. I like to keep track of these incidents and keep a written record of them. I hope you appreciate these stories. If you appreciate these stories, please do me a favor and click the thumbs up like button. It also helps if you can leave a positive comment in the comments section. Please feel free to share this show with your friends. Remember to click subscribe, and in the drop-down menu, click all so you get notified of future episodes on YouTube. Click follow if you're on Rumble. That way you can get notifications of new episodes on Rumble. Remember that all of these stories truly fall under the category of being our family's true tales of the supernatural. I'm Larry Scaringall Hollingster, your host and narrator. So I'd like to say that I hope to see you in the next episode of the show. As for now, I'll say good night, don't let the bed bugs bite, and don't let the ghosts give you a fright. Goodbye for now.